tell you we have a very good working relationship with Sumter County, Marion County, Lake County. We provide automatic aid to all of those departments. Sumter County, in the last 4 months, we have started auto aid. Actually, the computerized dispatch system looks for the call location, and then it looks for the closest apparatus for that particular emergency. So if we happen to be right down the street on a call, if, for example, 44 and 301, it will show us as the closest unit, even though that call is in Wildwood, and we will be there in a few moments, as opposed to the Sumter truck that may have a 4 or 5 minute response time from their area. They do the same for us. If they're closer, they will take the call within the villages. So we're utilizing those departments. As I said earlier, we have mutual aid agreements that we go into the other counties. It's nothing uncommon to see a villages unit over at the Best Buy Square assisting Lake County on either a medical call or a structure fire. So how do we measure our level of service within the department? The reaction time is measured from the time the tones go off from the station until the unit starts leaving the station. NFPA standards, which we abide by, says we have 60 seconds to do that night or day. Right now, we're averaging 53 seconds. In addition, average response time, that is the time that's measured from the truck the time the unit leaves the station, so it'll rise on the location of the incident. We're averaging 4.25 minutes throughout the district. NFPA standards for medical calls are 4 minutes. So as the call volume increases, that will decrease throughout the year also. So our goals for 2018, and we've been working very progressive with this. For every engine, aerial device, there are 3 personnel added to the truck. That's their assignment when they leave the station. We're in the process within the very near future of opening Station 47, as Dr. talked about, which is just south of here on Morris Boulevard. That will have 1 engine in that station with 3 personnel on for the time. Station 40, we're in the process of expanding that station to take an aerial unit due to NFPA requirements and the amount of 3-story plus buildings in that area. We need to have an aerial unit that can respond within a 2.5-mile radius of those 3-story buildings. We have done a complete renovation on Station 43 in the last year. In the very near future, we'll be placing a rescue into service down the street at Station 44. Increase of AED programs. We're over 200 programs at this point. It's growing every day. Here's the very interesting part. Between our rapid response with paramedics, the AED programs, the current survival rate of cardiac arrest in the villages is over 40%. Does anybody have any idea what it is nationwide? 10% in the United States. So we're beating the odds with those 2 applicants. Our goals coming up for 2020, we are modifying our inspection prevention division right now. We are going to start taking some of the inspections that they do each day and moving them down to the line staff, which provides 2 resources. It gets the staff into the commercial properties to look at them and to do the pre-fire plans. And it allows us to use the prevention department to do larger complexes like commercial properties where we have life safety issues and we need to protect you, the public. We are also working on the Commission of Fire Accreditation. We will be going in front of that board in August of 2020. And we are also working on ISO, which is the insurance rating, and this is how your insurance is based. Many years back, they came and did an evaluation on which we were at a 4. After that evaluation, we dropped to a 2. And with hopes within the next year, we'll drop to a 1. And just to give you an idea, the ISO rating goes from 1 to 10. 10 is basically an F, or 1 is an A+. So that's what our goal was for this year. And in addition, we will be working to maintain a 5-minute or less response time 90% of the time throughout the district for all emergencies. So I will turn it over to Chief Wolf next.
Chief Nehemiah Wolf, Community Watch. I have to tell you, I am excited today to be here and have an opportunity to share with you some numbers in reference to Community Watch and just how busy we really are there. First off, I'd like to say that Community Watch is made up of many of village residents. That's the majority of my staff. They are very dedicated and they're very well trained. And they protect the villages by helping keeping a watch wire around the clock 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and of course 365 days a year. The communication division operates 24 hours a day, and that is a huge access for the village resident. It provides a constant connection to the district, as well as providing support for the patrolmen that are out there. Gate operations personnel are there, and they're monitoring the hundreds of cameras that we have throughout the villages. Along with those duties, they also monitor for gate strikes. They provide calls through our adult watch program, and they provide documentation for any incidents that's happening on district property that's observed by them. My gate attendants staff 23 staff gates. That's a huge operation. That's 60 people a day. That's covering 24 hours a day, all of those gate houses. My patrol division, of course, patrol drivers patrol all of our neighborhoods. It is our goal, our objective to get every neighborhood at least 2 times a day within a 24-hour period. And that also adds a level of security to our neighborhoods. Some of the things that we've done recently at Community Watch is we have implemented a new data reporting program called ER that increases our efficiency and allows us to monitor all of our documentation more effectively. Our dispatchers went to a 12-hour shift. That reduced for us the number of call-outs. Our dispatchers can actually plan things in advance, doctor's appointments, things like that, and it provides for a more efficient operation. We have 13 patrol zones, Finney being the addition. They are covered 24 hours a day, of course, 7 days a week. In addition to that, there's also 2 supervisors, so there's someone constantly. Patrolling is a very important part of Community Watch. I can tell you that law enforcement is very appreciative. Can you imagine if they was tasked with having to do all of that patrolling that we actually provide? It would be very, very difficult and very costly. Community Watch patrol drivers patrolled over 1.1 million miles last year. That was awesome. That's huge. From someone who is former law enforcement, you have no idea the value of that. Even though Community Watch is not law enforcement, we have no enforcement authority, we have no arrest powers, but we do provide a deterrent to crime. The bad guys know that Community Watch, along with law enforcement, is in place. Telephone, radios, eyes, ears, to alert the law enforcement when needed. It is a big, big plus for the business. Community Watch handled over 285,000 incidents that came into our CAD system, communication system, last year. That is huge. Those are documented phone calls from residents, visitors throughout the villages during the year. That number kind of is broken down, and it shows residents, assistance. Again, that is very, very huge. The assisting residents, the thing that you have to remember is that we're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even during Hurricane Irma a year or 2 ago, we didn't close. We handled over 1,500 calls that came in. Anytime there was a holiday or weekends, all of those calls, customer service calls, probably all of those are handled by Community Watch. Assisting other district departments is very, very huge. Again, customer service calls, after hours, weekends, those calls come through Community Watch Dispatch, DPM, anything that a resident needs. It allows them to have a a continuous connection to the district by being there. Adult watch, 18,000, that's huge. People living alone, needing to or wanting to have a connection with a human on the other end of a phone line. We provide that to them. It brings peace of mind to family members who live out of state for those residents, knowing that they're part of the program, and the criteria is there is no criteria, 24 hours a day. During Hurricane Irma, I can recall phone calls being made 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, because that is the time the resident wants somebody checking on them. Very, very huge value in that. And all the other numbers, of course, patrol zones, 81 neighborhoods that was patrolled, 93,000 times within a year. That is huge, again, huge deterrent. And note that it adds another level of security and protection for our residents. Animal-related complaints, of course, work orders is huge. 24 hours a day, you can report something that is broken or that is efficient. Work order goes in, and it allows us to make those repairs in a timely manner. Utility problems, again, and then house checks is another thing. Mr. Bear, you guys make me nervous. I know each and every one of you, but you make me nervous.
Okay, so there's a lot going on, no doubt. Just wanted to kind of look forward just a little bit at what we'll be looking at this coming year. This is just sort of a broad overview. The first is we're going to bring forward. The first is we're going to be bringing here. Who am I? The first is bring forward a new set of contracts, really with an elevated sort of approach to the housekeeping and maintenance with regard to all the coastal recreation neighborhood facilities. We heard from the Community Development District Board of Supervisors, from our customers, that we were looking for a little bit more insofar as maintenance and housekeeping. So you're going to see those come forward. They're going to go out for bid more in the summertime time frame, and we'll bring those forward and we'll discuss what those changes are. I know that many of you have already heard the update from Mr. Wharton via your CDD meetings as well as at PWAC and AAC meetings. Recruitment and retention. When we talk about resources, we're also looking inward at staff resources. It's very important that we have a pay, compensation, and benefits package that can attract and retain the talent that you need, that we need to run this municipal corporation, if you will. So we are looking at our total pay and compensation package. And more so, we're even looking toward what those other benefits of other jurisdictions are. So making sure that we can compete as everyone is going after the brightest and the best resources. So you're going to hear a lot more of that really in the summer with all the budget. Purchasing practices, we mentioned that Mr. LaRock will bring forward a whole new purchasing manual. And that purchasing manual is going to have a lot of changes in it. We're excited about that. It's going to enable us to have additional flexibility in making sure we can address what your needs are in acquiring those services and goods. It's going to make sure that we have a little bit more centralization of some of those services. And when we look at procurement, you're going to see in the coming year that we are going to go, just like with our fleet policy, from a decentralized model where several people are ordering the goods and services to more of a centralized model. Making sure that we not only have the purchase power we need across all of the departments, but also better accounting and monitoring of what's being expended insofar as those goods that we are purchasing. I'm not, as a manager of a government entity, not used to the decentralized sort of model that we have here for all the different services. So that'll be a continuing theme that you will hear coming from a much more urbanized area where we're looking for economy of scale, as we should be here too. Environmental initiatives. I really am in many ways heartened and in some ways disheartened by some of our practices insofar as the environment. So we've taken on some recent environmental initiatives looking at our consumption of some of the petroleum-based, styrofoam-based products and goods that we purchase as district, whether it be in this recreation center or it be at the district administration offices and all the satellite facilities. So we're looking at that. We're also, as you know, replacing all of the incandescent and UV fixtures, nearly completed in all of the postal neighborhood recreation facilities. All the new facilities coming on, like the Station 47 just south of here. And what I'd say is as you actually leave, if you want to go down and just kind of, we're only talking about it's 1,000 feet south of here, and the station is about 85% completed. The doors are just about up and complete on the bays, the roll doors, so it's really well worth the drive by. But you're going to see a lot of changes. That facility and others will have LED. You'll begin noticing that in the design of our facilities. There's a little different design with regard to more attention paid to the United States Green Building Council, their initiatives as far as LEED and Green Globe, looking at things like window overhang, darker shadings on windows, advanced HEPA filtration systems, things like that. So really looking at our practices coming through construction as well as our consumptive practices. One of the things that I would ask is we tend to get stuck on this environmental discussion group that I had, which was really excellent. I went to last week in Bridgeport. There were a lot of people who kind of got fixated on recycling. Let me just touch on that for a second. When you look at the cascade of really environmental initiatives, you really have reduce, reuse, recycling. Recycling is really the third cascade down. What you really want to do is you want to look at, can you reduce what you consume? Do you need that shrink-wrap plastic product? Do you need to buy that? If you buy it, can you reuse it in some way yourself? Can you use that petroleum product? Because you know if it goes to a landfill, it's going to sit there for 1,000 years. And then it's really recycling it. So it's really the lowest tier. When you're at the recycling level, you've already mined that sort of that earth resource. You've already transported it. You've already gone through that whole sort of series of, when you look at greenhouse gases and whatnot. So it's very important that you kind of understand that. As we're looking at the next year, we'll be focusing on a solid waste management planning strategy, looking at how District 12 and how the other districts are consuming their recyclables or not, and how the MRF facilities and the global economy are really accepting those recyclables. I think many of you will be surprised that about 50% of our tonnage of recyclables require an additional support, dollar-wise, to be taken by the MRF facilities. China is no longer saying, send us your recyclables. The market is not. It's really cardboard. Cardboard is the big recyclable. When you look at a lot of the other waste streams, not so much. So it's really important for us to kind of make sure that we are ever self-sustaining, that we actually have a good solid waste management plan. And part of that is recycling. Not speaking bad about it, but I like people say we need recycling bin. That's all true. But the bigger picture has recycling as a part of it, but not the do end all. So it's important to kind of look at that. We've also talked about the right size of the fleet vehicles. We'll continue putting that out insofar as what our other initiatives are with the environment. Customer service delivery model. We are making some changes. You heard about the satellite office. We settled on a name, not annex, not satellite office. So the satellite office, we are going to be co-locating. Again, part of an environmental initiative is you don't disturb the resource, the natural land, if you don't have to. Try to co-locate things. So you've got, as Mr. Blocker and Ms. Duckett mentioned, you've got Station 47 right down the road, co-located with it, already disturbed soil, already have utilities there. We're going to have customer service. We're going to have DPN. We're going to have community watch. We're going to have a small utilities area for utilities. So that's all co-located. Also, we're going to get into less of a need for people of staff to have to travel to centralized muster meetings. So we're getting into video conferencing. We're getting into getting a lot of electronic technology out to all the gates and these satellite facilities. Because right now, the muster meeting for the A and B groups, or the red and blue groups, they've actually got to come into community watch, and you've got hundreds of people driving their cars. would like to think that they would carpool, but how many of us carpool today? So I won't ask you to put up your hands, but just keep that to yourself and think about that. So our customer service delivery model is something very important to us. As we travel further as a district, as boundary-wise, south and southeast, you will see that it's more important for us than ever to make sure we have these co-located satellite facilities. We can't afford to have 30 DPM people driving 40 minutes back and forth from Sumter Landing, where they muster down to District 12 and District 13 and District 14. That's not a model that is sustainable. Environmentally, cost efficiency-wise, just not sustainable. So there's a lot of things that are going to be coming up this year. So just a couple things, I'd be remiss. I look to you all, each and every one of you, to help us get out the word on e-notification, e-billing, Resident Academy. We've gone over it at all your meetings. Some of you have handed out hundreds of brochures, some tens, some nones. So I would like to think that each of you would avail yourselves to having your resident population, understanding how they can be connected. 7,500 residents on e-notification. That's about where we are, 7,500 about. So out of 65,000 rooftops, or roughly we talked about 125 to 130,000 residents. It's an increase over 2 years ago, but it's not where we want to be. So, and if you want to see the new Resident Academy, I would urge you, if you haven't been through it for 8, 10, 12, 4 years, it's very different. 2 5-hour days into 1 4.5-hour day. Well, maybe 1 5-hour day. I know, so I was being optimistic there. And then, you're leaving with the same information, but you're interacting after the presentation with all the senior staff as need be. You have your issues individually addressed. Very important. Used to be that you would talk to Cliff, and during the meeting, Cliff would have a question, for example, and Cliff's question would be about his home site, and behind it a drainage problem, and the whole room got to go on to a trip of Cliff's backyard and how his drainage was. And for 20 minutes, we're not doing that. What we're doing is delivering the information and being able to spend time with Cliff after the meeting, senior staff, being able to interact and solve his problem. No, that's just an example. Cliff doesn't have a drainage problem. With that, I would like to say thank you, and I hope that this was beneficial to you. It's extremely beneficial to us on 2 levels. One, sharing the information with you all, and number 2, getting our sort of thoughts together as your senior team. These sort of exercises benefit us as well because it forces us to get all this gray matter thought into kind of a format, not only present to you all, but to repurpose to our resident groups. So thank you for coming and thank you for your time.